All right, today we're diving into a really big shift in the SAP universe. We're talking about how businesses handle rebates and incentives, and how SAP has completely reinvented the game. We're going from a system that was, let's be honest, a source of major operational headaches, to a whole new architecture in S/4HANA that's all about real-time power and flexibility.
So what's the core change here? Well, on one side, you have the old world, SD rebates. It was slow, it was rigid, and it was a massive drain on system performance because it was built on these clunky, redundant index tables. And on the other side, we have the new way in S/4HANA, settlement management. This is fast, it's flexible, and it's built for a real-time world. The fundamental shift is this. We've stopped storing mountains of old, pre-calculated data, and instead, we just ask the right questions at the exact moment we need the answer.
But, before we really get into the solution, we have to talk about the problem. To really appreciate why this change was so desperately needed, you have to understand the pain of the old system. And the reason for this massive overhaul? It really all came down to one single, notorious component.
And here it is, the villain of our story, the VBox table. Just think of it as this extra separate ledger that the system had to update every single time a billing document was created. And the real kicker, if you needed to create a rebate agreement retroactively, the system had to rebuild this entire table. It was, and I'm not exaggerating, an absolute performance nightmare.
And this quote just perfectly illustrates the real-world business pain. This wasn't some minor tech annoyance in the background. We are talking about hours, sometimes even days of system downtime. For any company doing high-volume sales, this was a huge operational risk, locking up the entire system right when you need it the most.
So with that painful history in mind, let's look at how S/4HANA completely re-engineered this whole process. And this isn't just an update, it's a totally new philosophy, built from the ground up with a brand new object right at its heart.
And that new object is the hero of our story, the condition contract. See, unlike the old rebate agreements that were all tangled up with sales transactions, the condition contract is a central, neutral HUD. Think of it like the official rulebook for the deal. It holds all the terms, the who, what, when, how much, but it stays completely separate or decoupled from all the day-to-day transactions until the exact moment it's time to settle up.
Now, this whole decoupling idea has some seriously powerful benefits. First and foremost, that VBox cable, it's gone, vanished. Now, business volume is just calculated on the fly, in real time, by querying the database directly. And it can do that because it's leveraging the incredible in-memory speed of HANA. And maybe the best part, because this new object is neutral, it becomes a single, unified platform for everything. Customer rebates, vendor bonuses, sales commissions, royalties, you name it.
Okay, so to make this a little more concrete, we can actually break this whole new system down into three foundational pillars. These are the things that really support the entire settlement process.
So the first pillar is this idea of a unified view of your business partners. In S/4HANA, those old, rigid lines between a customer and a vendor are just gone. The system simply sees a business partner. This partner can both buy from you and get a payment from you, all under one single master record. This is a total game changer for just streamlining the whole payout process.
Our second pillar is a much smarter kind of dual-sided pricing engine. See, it has to do two jobs at the same time. First, it has to post a liability, an accrual, at the moment of the sale. And second, it has to calculate the final payout amount during the settlement run. It's like a two-step financial dance that has to be perfectly in sync.
And there are three key condition types that make this whole dance possible. First up, you've got REA1. This one handles the accrual, posting that liability with every single invoice. Then you have RES1. This is the one that calculates the final cash payout during the actual settlement. And finally, there's RV1. This one is super important. It's a statistical condition that basically acts as the scorekeeper, carrying the total business volume into the calculation so RES1 knows what number to work with.
And that brings us to our third and final pillar, the engine itself. This is the powerful mechanism that completely replaces that old clunky VBox table. It's how the system dynamically finds and adds up all the relevant invoices when it's finally time to settle.
And the magic behind this engine is something called the Business Volume Determination Profile. You can think of this profile as the brain of the whole operation. It's basically a set of rules that you configure that tells the system exactly how to search the database, which tables to look at, what criteria to use, everything it needs to find the right invoices. Getting this profile right is absolutely critical.
And listen, this right here is probably the most important takeaway for anyone who's actually going to work with this system. If you run a settlement and it fails because it says it can't find any business volume, the problem is almost always here. It means the rules you defined in your contract don't perfectly match the search criteria you set up in your profile. The keys have to fit the lock exactly, or the door just won't open.
So now that we've got all the building blocks, let's see how they all come together in a typical day-to-day workflow. From creating the agreement all the way to cutting the check.
The process itself is actually really clean and logical. It all kicks off with creating that condition contract. Then, as invoices get generated in your day-to-day business, the system automatically posts the accruals in the background. Before you go to pay out, you can run a quick check to verify the accumulated business volume, just to make sure it's accurate. Next, you execute the settlement run itself, which calculates the final payout. And finally, that settlement document goes over to finance and they clear the payment. Simple as that.
Okay, so let's pull back for a second and look at the big picture. Why is this more than just a fancy technical upgrade? What's the real strategic impact for a business here?
Well, here's the crucial point. The complexity didn't just disappear, it shifted. In the old world, the big challenge was just managing a terrible index and constantly fighting system downtime. It was a technical, brute force problem. In the new S/4HANA world, the challenge is in the configuration, in intelligently designing those business volume profiles to make sure the system is asking exactly the right questions. We've shifted from a challenge of brute force to a challenge of brainpower.
And this is really the ultimate takeaway. What SAP has built here isn't just a better rebate tool. It is a single, unified enterprise platform that is capable of managing pretty much any kind of financial settlement across your entire business ecosystem.
And that really leaves us with one final thought. This powerful architectural shift isn't just about fixing old problems. It's about unlocking brand new strategic opportunities. So the real question for your business is no longer just, how do we pay a rebate? It's, what new partnerships, what new sales incentives, what new business models could we create now that we have a true enterprise settlement platform at our fingertips? Thanks for tuning in.